So another incredible chapter here. This is, I guess, like one of the best fights in battle manga ever, right? Also, shout out to the team that gets these translations out. It's pretty much a thankless job at this point, but these guys really do put in some serious work, and we're completely spoiled at this point. So thank you to the team that makes this possible. Coming into this one, as we expected, Blast opens up one of his portals, which is actually now known as a hyperspace gate, and I think that's pretty cool, so I'm just gonna call them that. And he's trying to divert them somewhere else so that, Earth doesn't explode. And he winds up getting them just above Earth, and he says the gate can't handle this much energy. I can't give it enough distance. And then suddenly we see his silhouetted team appear behind him. This is like the retcon brigade at this point. And I say that because they were kind of introduced originally in chapter 164, but then that got changed and now they're just silhouettes. So we know at least two of these people here. We know that this guy is like a Boros race member, and then this guy is like some kind of lion being. However, this woman is kinda new. And I say kinda because we saw her before in chapter 156 when Blast's team was like first shown. There's like 9 members including Blast in this team, or at least 9, there could be more. But we saw her in the forefront. But she wasn't there in the original chapter 164. It was like an elf woman. Anyway, they're able to help Blast like close this gate. And this may confirm my suspicion about his team, and it's that they all kind of share the same powers, which Blast refers to as beings who manipulate the reality of the cosmos. Now, I'm not saying they're all one for one identical in their abilities, but I think they more or less all can kind of do the same thing if they wanted to. And that's most likely the linking factor among them, aside from God. And it's possible that their powers come from God, like they reverse engineered what they're referring to here as divine power.
But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Bespoke Post.
Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering awesome boxes of top shelf goods from under the radar brands. It's free to join and you can skip a month or cancel anytime.
Every month, they introduce their members to cool new products, outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and more. Even live oysters, based on a preference quiz that they fill out.
Every box has around $70 worth of goods inside, but cost you only a fraction of the value. Preview your box before it's shipped. You'll get a box assigned to you, and before it's shipped, you'll get a preview of what comes inside to decide if you'd like to 1, keep it, 2, swap it for a different box, or 3, skip the month entirely for no charge. You only pay for what you want. So I got a couple awesome things for Bespoke Post, such as their concentrate box, which came with a cold brew iced coffee maker, a concrete desk set, and Bolivar bitters. Making cold brew coffee is incredibly easy with this thing. All you gotta do is load up the hopper and put it in the fridge for 24 hours, and then afterwards you get incredible tasting cold brew coffee, and you can even add these little bitters that make it taste even better. I also got their claw box, which came with this tactical karambit knife, and this thing doesn't only look cool, but it's as sharp as you'd think it is. I had trouble cutting this kinesiology tape with scissors for the longest time, but now that I have this, it cuts it like a samurai cuts bamboo in an anime. So guys, to get 20% off your first box, click the link in the description and enter Zhoniin20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/Zhoniin20. Thanks guys. But anyway, the gate almost winds up closing, but then suddenly it just shoots off in a beam into the distance. And before we go to where that beam went, we got to take a look at this moon panel here, because we're seeing the dark side of it, which we haven't seen yet. We've primarily just seen the front where the eye crater is. But now that we see the back, there's another crater, and it looks like a spine or something, right? It looks like the back of some kind of being. And if it is that, I'm not saying for sure it is, but if it is, then it's very likely to be God's body, or like his corpse or something. I know it's getting confusing now because God is seemingly sealed in some kind of dimension, right? I mean, or at least that's what Blast said, or heavily implied. So why is he also in the moon? Well, I don't know. This could be where God crash landed when he originally came to Earth. I don't think God originated on Earth. He does come from the cosmos somewhere. I mean, I think that's why he's infected so many different planets. And that's where we get Blast's group. Like, they all come from a lineage that originally sealed God, and maybe that's why he had to leave this place. And I also think it goes back to a story that One made aside from One Punch Man. It was like a one-shot manga called Monster of Earth. And in the beginning of that, it says, in the past, before Earth received the attention of monsters, an alien who lost his home world to war drifted to Earth. He adapted to the environment and the culture of Earth and married an Earthling. Not long after, they gave birth to a child. Naturally, this is not a normal child. He inherited the alien's abilities. One is not obviously just directly copying that story, but I think it kind of lines up with what's going on here. But I just would have assumed that if God was sealed in another dimension, then all of him would be. But I guess there's like a separation here between like his corporeal form and his consciousness, maybe? I don't really know. Let me know in the comments. Hey, also guys, if you like my One Punch Man content, please subscribe if you haven't already. It's fine if you don't want to, but if you just needed a reminder, here you go. But anyway, Saitama and Garo wind up getting shot to Io, one of the moons of Jupiter. I know, quite an incredible distance. And Jupiter is kind of significant here, and I'm not entirely sure why. Now, we have heard Jupiter be mentioned in the series before. Back in chapter 130 of the Viz, at least, when Psychos is fusing with Orochi, she's like visited by God, and she compares it to like the surface of Jupiter. Now, what I actually think she's looking at is just like the face of God, but like he's so big and close to her that it just appears that way to her.
Also, the title of chapter 143 is Jupiter, the Bringer of Jollity, which is like an orchestral song by Gustav Holst.
And I don't want to bore you guys with the mythology stuff, but Jupiter is like one of the ancient Roman religion gods who is considered like the king of gods, and one of his equivalents is Indra from Hinduism, and they could ultimately just be a part of what makes up God, although there are many things that make him up. Ashura from Buddhism is another big aspect of God, but I think the biggest influence on him is Osiris. By the way, going back to the crater in the moon, on our actual moon in real life, there's a crater there called Osiris. But regardless, One is like a big mythology nerd, just like Oda and Kishimoto. So there's a lot that goes into him crafting these characters. And this is like his way of kind of showing us without telling us. But anyway, Saitama and Garo are just beyond powerful to be able to just exist here, because it's clearly not affecting them at all. Garo, more understandable since he can manipulate the cosmos, and he is like cosmic radiation himself, so, you know, it's understandable if it wouldn't affect him. But Saitama, you know, he's just a human, ostensibly, but obviously much more than that. What I'm trying to say is that, like, I don't think Bang or like another S-class hero besides Blast would be able to just be chilling here like this, because Io is not inhabitable by a human in the slightest. But Saitama says, oh well, at least I can let loose at full power against a guy who could stay up. Now that's a problematic statement. Does that mean that he literally is using his full power? I guess, but I don't think this means that like this is his absolute peak and that he can't show any more power than this because this is it, and that there's a chance he can lose here. I don't think that's the case at all. When he says full power, I think he just means not having to worry about the earth and he could just not hold back. That makes sense. But then Saitama mentions holding Genos' core, and he says I better keep a tight grip on it, like he doesn't want to lose it, you know, by falling out of his costume or whatever. And this is great for many reasons. So first of all, this means that Genos is going to survive, because obviously One is making sure that we know that the core is being kept intact here. And also, if we go back to chapter 93, which I think is chapter 91 in the Viz, Dr. Kuseno says if you do use your full power, 10 seconds is the limit. Your body cannot withstand anymore. You may be a cyborg, but you'll die if your energy core explodes. So I guess that means that, he could live as long as he has the core. Like, we saw half of his head was missing, but I guess that doesn't matter. And also, this is just an incredible way for One to raise the stakes on Saitama here and not show everything he's fully capable of, and to also not give him overexposure, because, there's plenty of time left in the series for Saitama to go even even more deeper than this into his power and effort. And also, you know, it's just very and just very Saitama to fight the grand epic battle with one hand while he's like making sure that something precious to him doesn't break. It's just really great writing here. So at this point, it seems like Garo's actually trying to like pause the battle, and because he's like, hey, I don't know how this happened, but we actually kind of wound up on one of Jupiter's moons, so we got to think a way to get back. And Saitama's like, nah, you're not getting out of this. We can talk about that after I beat the crap out of you. And then Garo's like, okay, we can do that later. And he opens up a gate underneath Saitama, which means that, yeah, Garo already copied this move from Blast, just like he copied the gravity knuckle. And Saitama just kicks it out of the way. He's like, no, we're not going anywhere. And this is incredible because, like I said before, it's showing us what Saitama is truly capable of. He is not bound by anything, essentially. And we kind of got a taste of this in the redraw of chapter 100 when Phoenix Man sent Child Emperor to like that spiritual place or whatever you want to call it, which is implied to kind of like happen in the mind or whatever. Saitama just broke in there like tangibly, and he's kind of doing like similar feats here as to where, like I said, he's not bound by anything. He is genuinely absolute power, not just in the physical sense. Then he just punches Garo off of the moon, and Garo winds up opening a portal to save himself from being, you know, thrown into the ether. Then he calls out Garo for like using tricks and not his ultimate martial arts, and Garo, I don't know, a little bit gets offended by this, and he's like, I've absorbed countless styles and I'm using them all in synergy. And he winds up doing this incredible sequence to Saitama where he opens up multiple hyperspace gates and hits Saitama with a whole bunch of moves that he's learned throughout the series, a whole bunch that we've seen him learn. And he winds up finishing the combo with a nuclear fission and a gravity knuckle, something we saw him do in the previous chapter. And afterwards, of course, this has done nothing to Saitama, but now he goes into his next serious move, which is the serious table flip. This is something that we webcomic readers have been waiting for a long time, and it's finally delivering in the manga, and it's just as incredible as we assumed it was going to be. We thought maybe he would have did something on Earth, but no, this makes more sense because this is definitely the grand scale that this move needed to be on. Because like I said, this is coming from the webcomic, and in that continuity, he kind of just throws up a section of Z City. It was incredible then, but you know, the manga is a different kind of animal. But he winds up throwing the entire surface of Io here. Then he darts around all the pieces of the surface and winds up doing another serious move in his omnidirectional serious punch. This is something that I was not expecting at all, which is great because I don't want to know what he's gonna do next. I'm more so like coming into this blindly. And this kind of reminds me of Sonic's 10 Shadows Burial, and I wonder if Saitama was influenced by that. But he's moving so fast here that it seems like he's tangibly replicating himself, and they're all like actual serious punches coming at Garo. But Garo opens up a gate and tries to, you know, dip out of there, but Saitama, being so fast, he's already in the gate and he smacks Garo away. Garo tries to like regain himself, and he's like, if I could just get above the barrage of rocks, he shouldn't be able to move around as he pleases. Then he opens up a gate and he winds up landing head first in the surface because he's so rattled after what Saitama did here, and he says, I'm completely lost my sense of direction, like a caged insect being played with by a child. This is also a reference to the webcomic continuity of this fight, and I doubt this will be the last one. Actually, I'm pretty sure in the next chapter we're probably going to get another recreation of an iconic sequence that really exemplifies who Saitama is. I mean, we're seeing the true Saitama in this chapter, but more so I'm talking about like Saitama when he acknowledges more or less that he is God. But once Garo tries to rebound, he gets hit with a serious punch again. This is remarkable because he's been hit with multiple serious punches, and he's kind of just been taking them like they were a normal punch. Now, I know I said in the previous video that Garo has surpassed Boros, but he's way beyond Boros at this point. I really didn't expect people to just casually be taking serious punches like this until much later on in the series. And Garo's like so strong, he's limitlessly strong, and that is pretty much the case. He did remove his limiter. It's getting to the point of where it's like being implied that Saitama's power is like unquantifiable. And then he says, if that's the case, then I'll just have to copy him limitlessly until I win. And then he gets a little counter punch on Saitama while, you know, also taking another strike in the process. And it looks like blood is coming out of Saitama's mouth. I don't want to jump the gun here. Now, either that's blood, or it's like debris or something coming from his fist. But if this is blood, then this is like the first time blood has been shed from Saitama, or even damage, since he's removed his limiter. And, you know, getting scratched by Toriko, of course. But when he says, I just have to copy him limitlessly until I win, that doesn't mean like he's literally copying his power. That's not what Garo's ability is. And also, even if he could, I doubt he could copy Saitama's power anyway. It just literally means, as he says, he'll have to copy him limitlessly. He'll just have to keep adapting and using what he's using against him until he wins, which, you know, it's an exercise in futility at this point. But yeah, that's where the chapter ends, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if Saitama actually did produce blood, because if he did, then wow, that's really taking the series into a different direction. Like I said before, with taking casual series punches, I did not expect Saitama to bleed until near the end, but we'll see what happens. And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.